Hello and welcome back to Mathletics with Nawaz. Today we are going to learn about the rectangular and polar coordinates of a point. First we discuss about the rectangular coordinates, and I have taken a rectangular coordinate system. I take a point over here, name it as P, and what are the rectangular coordinates of the point P? Basically rectangular coordinates are the horizontal and vertical distance of the point from the origin. Like if I show it on the diagram, the horizontal distance from the origin is shown over here on the x-axis, vertical distance is shown on the y-axis. So these are known as the horizontal coordinates. The horizontal coordinate is known as x. This is known as the vertical coordinate, which we also call y. So these x and y are named as the rectangular coordinates of the point, and we write it as x, comma, y, because the horizontal coordinates is always written first and the vertical is written after that. So these are known as the rectangular coordinates of the point. We can also show the y coordinate over here. I can just show it right after the x coordinate as well. So that is also way to show this one. Next, what are the polar coordinates of the point P? So polar coordinates are basically the shortest distance of the point from the center and the angle it is making with the horizontal. Like if I show it on the diagram, first polar coordinate is the shortest distance of point P from the origin, and we call it R, right? And second is the angle which the R is making with the horizontal, that we call theta. So R and theta are the polar coordinates of the point P, and we write it and in order R, comma, theta. So these are P of xy and P of r theta are the rectangular and polar coordinates of a point respectively. Now, if the point have two type of coordinates, there must be a relation between the coordinates as well. So we can see that there is a right angle over here, and I also want to name this point as Q. So I have a right triangle OPP, and in the right triangle OPQ, we can see that you can uh, just apply the trigonometric ratios. I can use cosine of theta is equal to, that cosine of an angle is adjacent to the angle divided by hypotenuse. So adjacent to the angle is x and hypotenuse is r, because hypotenuse is the side opposite to right angle, right? So then x will be r cosine of theta. Similarly, what will be the value of sine of theta? Sine of an angle is always opposite to the angle divided by the hypotenuse, and opposite over here is y divided by r. Derivative. Y will be r times sine of theta. So this is the first relation between the rectangular coordinates and the vertical coordinates. And there are two other relations as well which we derive from here, that if I square these two, like if I square x, it will become r square cosine square theta, and if I square y, it will become y square is equal to r square sine square theta. Now add the two values and you will get x square plus y square is equal to r square is common in the two terms, so I take it out and write it as cosine square theta plus sine square theta, and that is our trigonometric identity. We know that this equals 1. So may I write it as r square is equal to x square plus y square, right? And if I want to write r, it will be square root of the x square and y square. This is first relation, right? And there is another relation. If I divide the x and y values which we derived over here, if I divide them, if I divide the y with the x, what does it become? It becomes y upon x is equal to r sine of theta divided by r cosine of theta. R is cancelled out, and sine of theta divided by cosine of theta is basically tangent of the theta. And tangent of theta is equal to y upon x. So that is another relation between the rectangular and the rectangular and the polar coordinates of a point. So these are the four relations we use. Then we have took some examples, like I have a point P and its uh, polar coordinates are given. R is 10 and theta is 30. I want its uh, rectangular coordinates. And we know that what are the value for the rectangular coordinates? We know that x is r cosine of theta, y is equal to r sine of theta. Just putting the values over here, x is equal to 10 cosine of 30 degrees, y is equal to 10 sine of 30 degrees. Now we calculate these values. We calculate these values with the help of a calculator. First it was 10 cosine of 30 degrees. It becomes 5 times square root of 3, and the other was 10 sine of 30 degrees. So it becomes 5. So these are the two values we were looking for. The value of x is 5 times square root of 3, and value of y is 5. So this was the first example in which we calculated the rectangular coordinates using the polar coordinates. And in the second example, we have another point Q over here, right? And we want its polar coordinates while we are given its rectangular coordinates. And we know that what are the polar coordinates? R and theta. So what is the value of R square? It is definitely x square plus y square, and here it becomes 6 square plus 8 square, which I will write 36 plus 64. R square becomes 100 and R becomes 10. That is the one, that is the first polar coordinate. And what is the second polar coordinate? That is tangent of theta is equal to y upon x. And what is the y and what is x? X is basically adjacent to the angle and y is opposite to the angle. So y is 8 over here, x is 6 over here, and we get theta is equal to tangent inverse of 8 upon 6. Let us calculate it with the help of a calculator. Was tangent inverse of shift tangent fraction 8 upon 6 equals 53.13. So that is the value of theta. 53.13 is the value of theta. So these are the values of the polar coordinates. So I can write Q as 10, 53.13, and similarly we can also write P as the above point P as P as x was 5 times square root of 3 and y was 5. So this is the method to calculate the rectangular and the polar coordinates of any point, and changing between the rectangular and the polar coordinates. If you find this video helpful, kindly like, comment and share with your friends. Subscribe to our channel and stay connected with. Thank you.